beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. A beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Good job, guys.
The reason
The lyrics don't match up.
They don't match up?
These ones don't match up.
Wow.
the words don't?
There's more
These
verses.
ones are different from the ones that were in the song.
Yeah. There's more verses.
Shouldn't it?
He made big confusing along.
Second.
So which verses did you sing, Mika?
The first one is right, but the rest are additional verses. You're right. You're right. It's half and half right. But the reason we want you exposed to our America the Beautiful, you know, we have a national anthem, a song of our country. We have God Bless America, which is one of my favorites. And this is America the Beautiful. Songs to celebrate our country, to make us think. You know, when you talk about the grain in here, about the farming in our country, it all reflects sea to shining sea from one coast to the other. So when we do these things, just like when we say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, think about what you're saying. You are pledging to be faithful to the flag of our country and all that it stands for. All the people who have fought to defend our country, they usually have the American flag with them. You'll notice that soldiers, like in the National Guard, have a little flag on their uniform. There's a lot, it gives me chills because I am a very patriotic person. I'm proud of my country. It's not perfect. No country is, but there's not a better place in the world to provide you with the freedoms and the opportunities that you have. And as you think about it, you have a life, you're young, you have all this time and opportunity to build a good life for yourself by what? Making good decisions and working hard and thinking about how lucky you are. That's my little speech. I can't help myself because I know you're going to be happy if you're proud of your country and you work so hard that you're a good contributor to what our country is about. You make a contribution through your efforts. I mean, just like we're doing today, we want to share with you the country. I just wanted you to see this. You have the little booklets, the Constitution, and there are other things in there as well, the Declaration of Independence and so forth. But this is the entire Constitution, the supreme law of our country.
Holy cow.
Right here, this is it.
Oh my God.
It's not, it doesn't have to be long to be meaningful and strong. The founders didn't put a lot of, extra work in there, and like today, bills in Congress, they're 2,000 pages. Are you kidding me? Get to the point and get on with it. So this is your whole the whole law of your country's founding, okay? I just thought it would be a nice visual for you to see, just like it's only on a few pages in those booklets. The supreme law of our country. Okay. I have this. This is my version of the Constitution quiz. And what I'm going to give you one today before you leave. And here's my request. Take it home, bring your Constitution with you, your little booklet, and then sit down with your parents and go through the quiz together. Now, nobody would cheat because the answers are on the back, okay? So I should have erased the answers, but I wanted you to have them as a resource. But if you would do that, then you connect with your parent or parents about our Constitution. And one last thing, I'm going to give you these tomorrow, and we're going to read them together. This is so important. This is the American's Creed. You're an American, okay? You're a citizen of the United States of America. This is the American's Creed. And what it's about is our responsibility to our country as an individual. It is beautiful. It's short, 2 paragraphs. So tomorrow we will read that together, okay? So with that, I hope you had a good night last night. By the way, we know this isn't perfect, and I'm so happy that you're here today. We want you to tell us. Don't be afraid. Tell us what you would like to see. If we end up doing this again, and I hope we will, another year, we want it to be the best it can be. And so if you give us your feedback, then you're helping us to make a better Liberty Camp for another time, okay? That's really important because you're the ones who came here to take part in this. We did the best we could to start, and we did this in a kind of a quick amount of time. We only had like 4 weeks to plan everything. And
That's a whole month.
yeah, and it goes by fast when you have another life. But yes, it's a whole month. So with that, I want to reintroduce Rob Roper, who has a plan for you today, and you can tell him you have
You know, maybe we should just say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Why don't you stand up?
Who wants to lead us?
Come on, we must have leaders.
Sean said he wanted to do
there you
it.
go.
Okay, Sean, start us off.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Okay, let's have a great day.
Well, thanks, guys, for coming back. We're glad to have you here again. And yesterday we talked a lot about the lead up to the American Revolution and all the stuff that the key players, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and John Adams and Sam Adams and Patrick Henry and all those guys, what they had to go through in order to sort of bring this idea of a new country into reality. And as I said yesterday, I mean, it's a great story that I hope that will work its way into your hearts, because there's so many great stories within those stories that you can keep exploring throughout the rest of your life. There's always something new to learn about what these people did, what their motivations were, the battles that they fought, the personal demons that they wrestled with as they were trying to get this country to come. It was a huge deal. They had to fight battles and against the largest empire, the most powerful empire of the time. So think about that. Think about what it would take. What are some of the biggest obstacles in your life that you have to face and that you have to overcome in order to achieve your dreams through your freedom? So today we're going to talk a little bit about the Declaration of Independence. And we've got some big ideas, so rather than, I'm going to talk a little bit more today about some bigger ideas, but shorter time, and then we have a game, because
What game?
you guys said that you guys wanted to do a game.
I said
And
that.
yeah, you said that. Some other people chimed in and they said they liked it too. And I remember that from yesterday when we were talking about the Battle of Bunker Hill, the thing that you guys thought was pretty cool was the British uniforms and how they were red with a white X on them. Right over the bullet. So what I thought we'd do after, if you guys pay attention and learn some cool stuff about the Declaration of Independence, we'd have my version of a British uniform with the 2 cross straps, and we'll see how good musket shots you guys are. How's that?
It looks like the bullet went through somebody's chest.
You're gonna die.
Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. But,
doesn't have a head.
huh?
We'll never be able to shoot because we'll never be able to see what's inside.
Well,
It doesn't
I
have eyes.
don't, if you guys promise not to aim at my head, maybe I'll hold it like this.
Oh, okay.
But you gotta promise.
Well, you know, that's the best part.
You'll be able to hit your chest. You
Well,
get
after
to
you
take
stay
the
shot,
show.
like you die immediately. And it wouldn't even hurt because you'd be dead.
I suppose there's some truth to that. But before we get into the games, I just want to go around the table once more because we only all met yesterday, so we can remind each other of each other's names. Yesterday I asked you to tell me one thing about yourself. Today I'm going to ask you, what's one thing that you're grateful for about the country that you live in today? So I think we started with Sean yesterday, so we'll start at the back today. How about you, Jacob? Just say your name and one thing that you're thankful for about living in the United States.
I don't know.
You don't know your name?
Yeah, I know my name.
Just say something you like, or just say something you like about the United States.
Well, you want to think about it? It's hard when you're the first one who gets called on because everybody else gets to like think about it for a little longer and they get to riff off of your
Actually,
answer.
as soon as you said it, I got my thing.
You got your answer? Okay, well why don't we start with you, Micah?
Okay, my name is Micah, and the thing I'm thankful for about the United States of America is
Legos.
Legos?
Legos.
Which are from Denmark.
Roasted.
But they're in the United States.
But they're in the United States because we have freedom and we have freedom of trade. We can trade with people in
Yes,
Denmark.
that's exactly what it means.
They get Legos from us. We just
There are still Lego companies that make Lego in the United States, so I can say that.
You mean Lego?
Because they're in the
Lego
United
factories.
States. Yes, exactly.
Okay,
They're in the United States, so I'm thankful for them being here.
cool. All right, who wants to go next? Anybody want to volunteer? Josiah.
This is no sugary.
My name's Josiah, and I'm grateful for all the states in America.
All states? Yeah, there's a lot of different places that we can go. It's pretty diverse.
My name is Daniel, and I like America.
Freedom? Yeah, me too. How about you, Oliver?
My name's Oliver, and I'm thankful for freedom.
Freedom? Good. That's a good one. Ladies,
I'm thankful
you're thankful for freedom?
I'm thankful that we can worship the way we want to.
That's a very important freedom that we have to worship the way we want to. Great answer. All right. You like to be free? Guys, you guys want to chime in?
I'm Caleb, and I'm thankful that I can have the religion that I want to have.
Very important freedom.
My name is Jonathan, and I'm thankful for the freedom to, in Vermont, carry the concealed weapon on my person, and the freedom to make my own weapons.
Second Amendment rights, very important freedom that we have.
I'm thankful for the ability to vote.
The ability to vote, that's another very important freedom that we have in this country. Kate?
I'm Katie, and I'm thankful for American version of pizza.
American version of pizza? I'm with you. That's a great freedom to have. That's also a really interesting
Who made pizza?
melting pot idea.
Someone who was hungry and wanted pizza.
Because the
You know what
pizza,
pizza was at the
Pizza
time?
was invented in Italy.
Italy?
Yeah, it's an
What's the
Italian.
story behind it?
generally considered, I don't know the whole story behind pizza. It was actually it was a peasant food. It was what the very poor people in Italy used to do because they would lay the bread out and then they had tomatoes. And did you know tomatoes came from here?
Yeah.
The United States? Well, it wasn't the United States, it was
No,
the
it was
colony.
actually
They didn't
Vermont.
have tomatoes in Italy.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, until they came over here and the people who came and traded with the Native Americans, got tomatoes, and they brought them back to Italy, and the people in Italy said, this is cool, what can we do with this? And they had the freedom to turn it into pizza. And then they made pizza very differently from how we make it here.
It's
So then-
way healthier.
In World War II, our soldiers went over and we fought a lot in Italy. That was one of the battlegrounds. And the soldiers ate the Italian pizza and said, wow, this is really good. So when they came home after the war, they started opening up pizza places all across America.
They started making pizza.
And they started making pizza, but they said, let's make it a little different. And in New York, there's one style of pizza that it's very different from...
Cheese.
Yeah, they have cheese. And then in Chicago, they have another style of pizza. And you guys probably know... and then their Pizza Hut came out and said, how can we make it different? That's stuffed crust. That's a really interesting...
Let's stuff some cheese in the crust.
What is always made accidentally?
Maybe it was. Maybe somebody
Well, it
thought
was
maybe
made
it'd be
of
good.
rabbits.
And maybe if they tried it out, nobody would have liked it and they would have stopped making it. But
Wait,
that's...
human pizza.
Huh?
Human pizza.
That's
Human pizza?
disgusting.
Well...
Actually, there's a Roblox game and it's called Escape the Pizzeria.
But that's a really interesting lesson about freedoms, because, what if there was, a king or a dictator or somebody who said, no, there's only one way to make pizza, you have to make pizza that way, and you
No,
have to
this
buy
one-
pizza from this person, you can't buy pizza from somebody else. None of these ideas would have come together, and that's
Go
one
to
of the
king
things.
so you get freedom.
What's that?
Go to king so you can get freedom.
Kill the king so you get freedom? Maybe we just depose the king.
You know, I think if you,
It used to be if you
I
kill
think
the king,
if you kill the king, you'll either die or end up in jail, and you'll have even less freedom.
Both.
There's that. But anyway, what a great discussion, because America has been called the melting pot, because we have lots of different people come from lots of different cultures from around the world.
Especially Japan.
Oh, and we have lots of people come just to St. Albans just for Maple Fest.
Just for the Maple Fest. I've come to St. Albans just for the Maple Fest. And it's pretty good. And it's a lot of fun. But that's one of the things that's great about our country is
They have
people
maple
come here
syrup. So
because
one-
they're all looking for that one thing in common. We all have that one thing in common, is we want to have the liberty that this country affords us so we can pursue our happiness the way we see fit. And that means having a stuffed crust pizza if we like it, or a Chicago-style pizza if we like it, or a New York-style pizza if we want it, or even, as my daughter likes it, a pizza with no cheese.
That sounds crazy.
That's what I said too, but she's free to do it if that's what she wants to do. So the thing that really, the document and the fight that happened with the Declaration of Independence is really sort of what solidified this idea of freedom. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the Constitution, in which they turned it into a law. And that really defines how we keep the freedoms that we have. But the idea behind the freedoms that we enjoy today came with the Declaration of Independence. So after the battles that we talked about yesterday, the Battle of Lexington and Concord, the Battle of Bunker Hill, the colonies were sort of coming together. They had formed a Continental Congress, which is, when we send representatives, how you send a representative to Montpelier to represent you in the State House here at home. And you send Bernie Sanders and Pat Leahy to the Senate, or we do, to represent us in Washington. Well, that's sort of what the Continental Congress was. They sent representatives to Philadelphia, and they debated the big issues and made some decisions. And one of the decisions was, okay, we need to have a Declaration of Independence. If we're going to be our own country, we need to sit down and define why. We have to tell people why we want to have our be our distinct country. And they put together a group of people, next slide please, Patty, to do it. And that team of 3 was Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, he was one. The next one, Benjamin Franklin. And the last one, John Adams. One from Massachusetts, one from Pennsylvania, one from Virginia. No, those are the 3 guys who were put on the committee to write the Declaration of Independence. And it's kind of an interesting story, because they were trying to figure out, okay, well, 3 people writing it as a committee, that could get kind of messy. Maybe one person should do it. And John Adams and Benjamin Franklin were the older of the 2, the oldest of the 3, and the youngest guy was Thomas Jefferson. Benjamin Franklin, they asked, Dr. Franklin, would you write the Declaration of Independence? And he said, no, I'm not going to write it, because I don't like people messing around with the words that I write. And some people speculate that the older guys were a little wiser, and they knew that whoever wrote this document was going to have one of these on his back from the King of England. Because whoever wrote this was basically thumbing his eye in the King of England and the largest power. They were going to be in big trouble if they got caught for writing this document. So Adams, who might have been a good one, he was very outspoken. The voice of the revolution. He was the one who made great speeches and motivated people to come together as a country, for the colonies to form together. But he was also, whenever you're outspoken, you can sometimes make enemies. And John Adams said to the other guys, well, maybe I'd write it, but if I wrote it, a lot of people don't like me. So they may not like what I write just because I wrote it. So the person who really should do this is Thomas Jefferson, the youngest of the three. He's only 33 years old.
Holy cow.
33 years old. That's not much older than some of you guys. Caleb, how old are you?
14.
You're 14? So it may not seem like, it may seem like it's a long way away, but a lot of the people thought in the revolution and did things were not that much older than you. 33 years old. Can you imagine that? I just turned 49. So that's kind of scary. So, I mean, he was much younger than I was, like a little kid compared to me. But
I'm younger than him.
you're young. But,
He
so,
should be 3 years.
but think about this. This is just the guy's, he's a farmer from Virginia, a very smart man, and Thomas Jefferson decided that he was going to sit down and write, or well, it was decided for him that he was going to go into a room by himself and write the Declaration of Independence. And then the other two guys were going to come in and they were going to help him fix it up after it was done. So we're going to talk a little bit about the words today. And this is some big ideas, so I need you guys to be a little patient with me, and I need you to focus and I need you to keep, because I do want to discuss some of the really important meanings of the Declaration of Independence. Linda, did you have a hand up? Did you want to make a comment before
I
we
was
move on?
just thinking that, I'm always thinking, of course. But just clarifying in a few words, very simply, what they were doing, you know, the Declaration of Independence, what exactly are they doing?
Yeah, they are explaining to the world why they want to be an independent country, separate from England. And we'll get into that. We're going to go through the words of the preamble. So next slide, please. Patty. So this is the actual words of the Declaration of Independence. This is how it starts. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal stations to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. Now, that's a pretty complicated language, isn't it? They talked very differently than we talk today.
Like one.
Huh?
It's like the key.
One people.
That doesn't
Oh, I see what you're saying. There's a grammatical thing. But when they say people, they mean like we are one people in this liberty camp. The one people of the liberty camp. One group. So it's sort of like one group of people. But this is a very complicated way of saying when in the course of human events, you know, today, we're in the course of human events today. At this point in time, it becomes, or at some point in time, it becomes necessary for one people, us in Liberty Camp, or in this case, the people of the colonies, of the British colonies in North America, that's what they're talking about, to dissolve the political bands which have connected them to another, to dissolve the political bands. Dissolve, you know what dissolve means? What does it mean?
If you drop, like,
Another word for disintegrate.
Disintegrate, to dissolve, to make go away, right?
imagine this. So you drop, say, some sugar in water. You let it sit there for a while, it'll start to disappear
Right.
into the water.
It disappears.
It would dissolve.
Dissolve the political bands. The political bands. That's another weird term for our ears today. The political bands are Britain was the mother country, and we were the colonies. So we have the political bands is what tied us together in terms of law. So we were their subject. We were subjects of the king. So we want to take those laws that made us the subject of the king and dissolve them, make them go away. So basically, we're leaving. That's essentially what this paragraph says. But it also says a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Basically, that's just saying, we want to say goodbye to you. We don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore. But it's a responsibility on our part to tell you why. So let's say, I don't know, you guys aren't old enough to date yet, but when you get dating and you break up with somebody, you say, look, I'm breaking up with you, but let me tell you why. That's the only way to do it fair. Do a fair thing. So that's basically what we're doing. We're breaking up with Britain. And we were going to tell them why. So the next paragraph,
No, it's going to
Before I go on to this one, does anybody have any questions about the opening paragraph of the Declaration? Micah?
Well, my question is, can I use the bathroom?
What's that?
Can I use the bathroom?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Don't be
Did you have a question, Oliver? Nope. Just stretching? Okay, that's important too. All right. This is the next. Yes, Linda?
I was just going to say, the people who founded this country, when they left the mother country and were brave enough to leave and come here and start a whole new nation, wanted to make sure that everyone understood why this was happening, why they were breaking away from Great Britain or England and starting their new country. And so there would be no misunderstanding about the intention of what the founders were doing. And later on in the Declaration of Independence, excuse me, there's an explanation of all the reasons why they were separating.
Robert, do you have a quick point?
Well, it's not clearly evident in the language, but I think there's another reason why they're declaring their intentions. From the very first settlers that came over here, they ascribed to be a city on a hill. So they're, a beacon unto all the nations. So they had this vision, this sense of providential destiny, that they're going to be a light unto all the nations, and what they're going to do is going to affect the whole world. So I think, therefore, it's behooves them to let people know why they're doing what they're doing. So there's a special sense of providential destiny that's behind this.
Yeah, so you can wrap it up when we get through the preamble, talk a little bit more broadly about it. So the next paragraph, this is the most important one, in my opinion, in the whole Declaration of Independence. And this is what Thomas Jefferson wrote. He wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." That's pretty heavy stuff. And it's pretty wonderful. Note that word happiness. It appears a couple of times in the Declaration of Independence. This is the first time, and this is what you guys, if you guys leave this camp with nothing else that burned into your brain, what it makes this country so special is we're the only country, not only in the world today, but in history, that specifically says that it is here for the happiness of its people. That's why we set up the government, so we can be happy. We have the right to pursue happiness, but it doesn't guarantee happiness. Key word, pursuit of happiness. It doesn't guarantee that you're happy. It gives you the chance to pursue it. But let's go to the beginning, because there's a lot of stuff in this paragraph, and I think it more than anything defines the country that you live in. This is what gives our country its real personality, and this is what makes it special, and this is the idea that we all have to go forth from this room when we're done to cherish and protect. So we hold these truths to be self-evident. What does that mean?
As they show themselves.
Self-evident. It means it's so obvious that nobody can argue with its truth. So it is self-evident that the sky is blue.
Yeah.
Some days, sometimes it's gray, but most of the time it's blue. It is self-evident that that board is read with an X in it. Self-evident. You can't argue with the truth of that. But you know what's incredible about this? What are they saying is self-evident? So obviously true that nobody can argue with it. Is that all men are created equal. Think about the world in which the colonists lived and the history of mankind up until that point. Do you think any government up to this point said all men and women, by the way, when they say man, it's men and women, are created equal? No, because there was slavery throughout history, there were kings throughout history, there were dictators and czars and emperors who were not. A czar is a Russian king.
Oh, why don't we just kill all of those so we can be free?
Well, because they were very strong. You know, sometimes you know you have to stand up. But throughout all of history, the whole history of mankind, there was nothing, no evidence to say that this truth was self-evident. It was not. It was an idea born in America that these things were true. That they were created equal and that they were endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Endowed by their Creator. What does that mean? Huh? This is another big idea, and you guys got to bear with me, you got to concentrate on this. It's when you have rights to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and other human rights that you enjoy, it's not because government gives them to you. It's not because a king gives them to you. It's not because our Congress gives them to you. It's not because democracy gives them to you. It's because your Creator gives them to you. You're born with them. And that means nobody on earth has a right to take them away. That's a key idea of liberty, and it's a key idea of what our country is all about. And you know, more and more around the world, people are adopting these ideas, but they're certainly not universal. And that's why they need to be protected. That's not why we need to learn about them. That's why we need to understand this, because this is a really big, really important idea. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Among these means not all the rights, but some of the rights. These are the big ones. These are the ones we're going to talk about here, are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, who wants to talk about it? Does anybody have an idea? What do you think the right to life is? What does that mean? Does anybody have an idea what the right to live? It's more than to live, though.
To have a life.
To have a life, to be alive. I can't kill you. Because I would be taking away your right to life, to be alive. But it also means the right to live your life as you see fit. That's part of the pursuit of happiness too. That's liberty. What is the right to liberty?
Be free.
Be free. But what does being free mean to you in your daily life? You look like you want to say something, Oliver.
Nope.
Nope.
Being free to do what you see fit to do.
Yeah. Free to play with Legos, or to go into the Lego business when you get older. Free to go to the school that you want to go to. Free to pursue the job that you want to do in your life that you think is going to give you fulfillment. And the pursuit of happiness. That's, again, a big, big deal. And no other country in the world or in the history of the world has dedicated setting up its institutions to protect the happiness of its people. Right?
Which is actually very sad.
It is pretty sad. And that's why we need to celebrate it here. And that's why we need to tell people that this is such a great thing. Robert, quick point?
The interesting thing about the pursuit of happiness, the Greek term for that that they were looking at is eudaimonia, which means it's like a sense of fulfillment of one's purpose. So this was their question. In order to, sometimes what makes you feel happy is not going to make you really be happy. So their understanding of happiness is a little bit deeper than what we normally. It's not a temporary feeling; it's a long-term. So you had to ask you, why am I here, and how do I achieve my purpose in life? So that was connected to their understanding of what they meant when they said the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah. And Linda, you want to?
Yes, just one quick thing, that all men are created equal. That doesn't mean that we're all the same size, the same skin color, the same abilities. Some people might be scientific, you know, mathematicians, artists. We all have different skills, but we are created equal in the eyes of God and under the law in this country.
That's a very important point that Linda makes. Equality under the law. That, again, we hold these truths to be self-evident. There's nothing in history up to that point that would say that people are created equal under the law. But that means that the law treats you the same as it treats me. But in Great Britain, where we were separating from with our Declaration of Independence, you had a king who was not equal to a peasant or a farmer or a merchant. And then you had lords, and you had dukes, and you had earls that all had different stations where they were treated differently under the law. And so in this country, everybody is treated the same under the law. If you commit a crime, if you're the richest guy, if you're the poorest guy, you have the right to a jury trial. You have the same rights that everybody else has. You can testify in court against somebody. If somebody does you a wrong, then the government is there to protect you just as much as anybody else down there. That was a revolutionary idea in the Revolutionary War, and it's one that we still have to preserve. We have to work hard to preserve that principle today in our country, and it's one that is not universal throughout other countries in the world. Yes, Linda?
One quick thing. This country was not founded to create a big government and to empower government. This country was created to empower you as an individual. And that is what is so rare. You can create for yourself a really great life, a positive life, fulfill your goals and your dreams. But it takes, as I said before, a lot of work and a sense of purpose, figuring out, you know, what you want your life to be. But in this country, you're free to do that. There are countries in this world where girls are prohibited from going to school. Okay? That's not the United States of America. They're getting a little better about it because of the pressure that's been put on the country. But there are places where young people like you don't have the same opportunities and freedoms.
And there are countries around the world today that are burgeoning first world countries where they have systems where if you're born into a certain class, you have to stay in that class for the rest of your life.
Egypt, if you were born to be a Christian, you have to stay Christian the rest of your life.
So you're not free to worship in the way you want. Somebody else tells you how to do it. So pursue it. If you think about the way governments used to be set up when you had a king and you had lords, your job, if you weren't the king, was to serve the happiness of the king, or serve the happiness of your lord who ran the castle in the community where you lived. They told you what to do. Caleb, you're going to be a farmer, and Cora, you're going to make clothes for the king, because that's what we need. We need you guys to do that stuff because that's what's going to make us happy. But here in the United States, in our burgeoning country, it was like, no, you figure out what you want to do with your life. And the thinking behind it, the important idea behind it is that if everybody does what they're passionate about, that they're going to do it really well. And that's going to make everybody happier, and it's going to make for a much more healthy society.
If God's name is up on my head?
Yes, and that is what you're passionate about.
I just wanted to tell us on my head.
And you're free to do that. All right, big ideas here. Does anybody have any thoughts on this? I want to read it again. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Anybody?
What was the question?
The question was, do you guys have any questions? Or do you have any thoughts?
Can you go back on the last slide so I can finish after my writing?
What's that?
I'm trying to watch the Declaration of Independence.
You're trying to write it?
Mhm.
Well, that's cool. That's a great way to learn what it says and to think about what it means.
Blah, blah,
I want to write a declaration of Lego independence.
That would be fun.
Dependency upon Lego. Just like if you don't build right, then I'm gonna throw you out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I live your life. Get out of
Dang
here.
it.
All right.
If that
I think Lego
existed
should make one by
before
fives.
now, then I would be kicked out times 40.
What's that?
I tear apart my Lego sets and build different things out of them.
Well, actually, I do that too, but how long do you keep them built? For how long?
29 days.
For my ATAP, like 2 months.
An ATAC bunker.
Yeah. For that, it was about 3 months.
Nice.
And then I started tearing pieces off it.
And you make your own thing. So you're pursuing happiness. Somebody tells you, this is how you can build the AT-AT. And you say, I can make this cooler. Or I can take these parts and make something that's totally cooler.
I
And
could
then-
transform this giant ATAC walker into a spaceship
Uh-huh.
or
So
a
that's
supersonic jet.
so those are the kind of freedoms that you want to do. And as you get older, then that's going to come to how you do your job, how you pursue your life, how you get an education. All these things really matter a whole lot. All right. If you guys don't have any more questions, we'll go on to the next. And this is another important concept. Stick with me, big ideas, guys. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the government.
What are the predators?
That is just some weird quirk of the projector.
It says GMC.
Projecting you suck. I thought it was like...
GMC, General Motors Chrysler, yeah, okay.
God.
So, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the government. What do you guys think that means? Yes?
Basically, for the rights to be held in place and to actually have meaning, we have to have people in charge somehow to do that.
Yep, that's a very good insight. Is you can't. Governments are important, and you'll get a lot of
For
people.
security.
Huh?
For security.
Well, but the role of the government, that to secure these rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness are among them. Governments are instituted. Institute means to put in place. So you take the government that you have is not there for the sake of the government. It's not to do what the government wants. It's not to do what the people in the government wants. They're put in place to secure the rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for its citizens. Again, this is a big concept, and you guys are awesome for paying close attention and trying to figure this one out. Because when we're finished with this, you guys are going to know more than most adults, and you're going to have it closer into your heart about what it really means to understand liberty and what it is to us here in the United States and how precious it is. Deriving their just powers from the consent of the government. The consent of the government. Consent is a big word. It means you agree to it.
I disagree.
Huh?
I disagree.
You disagree? You disagree with it? That's what consent means?
Consent is a very small word.
Huh?
You said it's a bit small.
It's only 7
small in
letters.
terms- it's small in terms of its letters, but it's big in terms of its meaning. But you ever notice that the word big is little and the word little is big?
Overnight, that doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
So big only has 3 letters and little has
Like 5 or 6.
But when you put little next to ginormous, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ginormous.
It does make a lot of sense.
Or
So
big.
consent of the government, but consent means you give permission. So the government doesn't
How much
tell
people
you
go up to country?
what's going on. The government is powerful, and the government has to be powerful because it has to keep enough order so that people can enjoy their liberty. It's not enough just to say you have your life, nobody can kill you. You have your liberty, you're free to do what you want, and you can pursue happiness. But if there isn't some form of government there that if somebody does try to kill you, somebody stops them, or if they're successful, punishes them. So that's what government is supposed to do. But the reason for it is to protect those rights. If it stops protecting those rights. And that's why our colonists wanted to have the revolution against Britain. They wanted to separate because they saw the government in Britain is not protecting those rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of the colonists. And because it was not, it was saying, no, you can't pursue happiness by buying tea from the Dutch, right? You have to pursue happiness the way we tell you to do it, which is to buy tea from us. And it's very simple.
Making them mad, so that doesn't make any sense.
Yep, it doesn't make any sense. So when a government stops protecting those rights, it becomes illegitimate. Another big word. Illegitimate means it is no longer a real form of government. It's bad. It's spoiled. It needs to be rejected.
It becomes a dictator.
It becomes a dictator. And governments can do that. And when the government becomes the dictator, when it stops securing your citizens' rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that is when it's time to say, enough. You throw off that government, you get rid of that government, and you put in a new government with the consent of the governed. That's you. You give it its authority, you give it its power, and its responsibility in return for that power is to make sure that your rights as a citizen, as not defined by the government, but as defined by your creator, are given to you. Sean?
One of the things you say we're free to do anything we want. Does it really mean we can do anything we want, like run away from the country?
Well, that's a very good question. It doesn't mean that you can do anything you want because everybody has the same rights, right? So I can't, if you have a right to life, then I can't take that life from you. If you've worked hard and you've created, you've made some money for yourself and you put it in the bank, I can't pursue my happiness by stealing your stuff. And that's what government is put in place to do, to make sure that everybody's rights are protected. And there is a certain balance to that. So no, that's a very good insight, Sean. You can't do everything you want. But we need to protect the rights that we have. Linda?
My summary of this wonderful paragraph, in my own words, is that the people who started this country, the founders, they created government to protect our rights. And the government's power comes from the consent of the governed, which means we have to approve of what the government does, and we have voting rights. Very, very important. That's in a large measure how we protect ourselves against a government that may get too big, which ours, in my view, has. So we have the opportunity to consent or approve of what the government's doing when we go to the ballot box to vote as individuals. And so when you become of age, I hope you will assume your responsibility as a citizen to go and vote, but not just that. It's to vote is one thing, but to be an informed, knowledgeable voter is another thing. So that you make sure you understand. Let's say I've been in the legislature. Let's say you were going to vote for me, okay? Or you were thinking of voting for me. I would expect you to come to me and ask me, Linda, where do you stand on this issue? Don't tell me what you want and where you stand on an issue, but ask me where I stand on an issue of importance to you. And let me tell you where I stand. And then you decide whether I deserve your vote or not. You can have a conversation with me so that we understand what we're both talking about. But your duty as a citizen, your responsibility is to vote, but to be an informed, knowledgeable voter. Okay? That's the way we get the kind of people in our government who will respect the people and our rights. Amen.
Amen. All right, one more concept that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to see how good a shot you guys are with the balls against the redcoats. And this goes back to protecting the rights, the consent of the governed, and life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and individual. Our country is views every individual as equal. Equal under the law. And this is an important concept. And this is what it means, because I think, and even today in the United States, you hear a lot about the good of the many and, and the few. So it's like, if everybody, how many thinks that you guys have heard the concept of like, what's good for the majority is what we should do. Like if everybody in this room voted on one thing, let's say to have pizza for lunch. How many people want pizza for lunch? How many people want hamburgers for lunch? Pizza. Pizza, hamburgers.
I would go hamburgers.
Wait, raise your hand for pizza.
Pizza.
One pizza, two pizza, three pizza, four pizza. Hamburgers.
5 pieces, okay, hamburger hands up.
Hamburgers.
There you go, 1, 2, 3, 4.
One.
Okay, so the hamburgers have it by about 2 votes.
Hamburgers.
Now,
Yum.
why can't some people get pizza, some people get hamburgers? Why do we have to have the majority fool everybody? So again, this protects the individual. The individual is important. And now we all come together as a group and we can make decisions as a group. But sometimes what's good for the whole group is hostile or dangerous to one individual. Like let's say you guys are young. You probably don't have a lot of money in your wallet, but I've got some money in my wallet. What if we all voted to take all my money out of my wallet and you guys divide it amongst yourselves?
Yay.
Who's in favor of that? Some of you are fair, thank you. I appreciate it. But let's say everybody voted for that. That's the will of the majority. But because I have individual rights under the Constitution, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, you guys can't take what's mine, even though it might be arguably better for the group as a whole, because I have individual rights. You can't kill me and take my stuff. You can't. That's how we protect each and every one of us from the majority. So that's my last big concept. You guys have any questions on that one? That's a tough one, I know. Linda, my star student.
I'm going to try to curtail myself a little bit, but it's not easy. I wanted to quickly throw in something here about how you hear about we're a democracy. You've heard that? The United States is a democracy? Well, in a sense we are, but there's a real difference between a pure democracy and a republic. A pure democracy is when you have the people vote and the majority wins, and then they do whatever they want to do. And there's no protection for you and me. Okay? This country that was created for us is a democratic, constitutional republic, which means, yes, we're democratic, not as being Republican versus Democrat, but it's a process. So we do vote. We have the right to vote as in a pure democracy. But in addition to that, we have a constitution that protects the people so that whoever wins, there'll still be a majority in the vote, but whoever wins has to abide by the laws of the country. They can't just go off and do whatever they want to do, whether it's in the best interest of the people in the country or not. So we're protected by the Constitution against other nations, or let me say, chaos can ensue, uproars and everything else, when you don't have people protected by the Constitution. You understand that a pure democracy is just the majority wins. They can do whatever they want, whether you like it or whether it's good for you or not. So we're protected by our Constitution.
Jerry, the next slide.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks. Oh, we talked about this a little bit. I forgot the last paragraph. I'll just read it to you guys. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, which we talked about, if the government stops protecting rights and starts taking rights away, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such forms to them that shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. And there's the word happiness again. So if government all of a sudden starts not doing its job, you have a right to fire it. Get rid of it. You're done. We're going to put in a new government. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's a famous painting of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And John Adams, when he saw this painting unveiled, was very upset because he said, "That's not how it happened. It wasn't anything like this." Because these guys in the Continental Congress at the time, it was chaos. It was 1776. We'd have the battles of Lexington and Concord, the Battle of Bunker Hill. And the British were really upset, and they were coming in from, they were pouring troops into the country, and these guys were all wanted men. They were going to hang them for what they were trying to do. And they were coming in from Pennsylvania and Rhode Island and Massachusetts and Virginia and South Carolina and Georgia, running into Philadelphia, scribbling their name on this piece of paper and getting out of town before they could get caught. It was crazy because once they declared independence, once they signed the Declaration of Independence, it was on.
And they do.
As Benjamin Franklin said, as I gave you the quote yesterday, if we don't all hang together, we will surely hang separately.
Hang along.
Yes, we will hang along. They were all wanted, and the fight was on, and they had a long way to go between 1776 and the Battle of Yorktown. And they had to fight a lot of battles along the way. And let's see how good you guys would be at defending liberty, establishing the new United States of America. We've been talking a lot yesterday and today about why the colonists wanted to be independent, and a lot of the good reasons why they wanted to be independent. But as you saw there, not everybody wanted to be an independent country. So a lot of people wanted to stay colonies of the British Empire. And I was just curious if you guys could maybe think of some reasons why the colonists, some colonists, wouldn't want to become independent.
If you become independent and you start a new country, well, you're basically starting from scratch and only have basic remains of what you learned from the last one. Then, plus, especially if you're branching off, if you're going off and not being a part of Great Britain anymore, which is the biggest military in the world at that time, some people would think, well, I'm practically asking them to shoot me in the head. There's no way we can win this, so why even try? So they wanted to stay a part of that. Instead of make their lives even more of a risk, branching off into this new place with only a couple hundred soldiers and not a lot of experience.
Very good
If we never
points.
did this, we would be speaking a British accent.
A British accent? How do you know that? No one said that we would
Couldn't you like
do a Boston accent, no. No one said we must speak British accents.
Well, you got a good British accent.
I did.
That's pretty cool.
I'm from Boston.
No, but Jonathan had some really good points. There's not, if you stay a colony, there's no risk, and there's no, you're safer. There are big issues of safety. Maybe it would have been better. You guys think it would have been better if we hadn't done it? If we had made the safe decision and we decided we weren't going to take any risk?
No, we wouldn't become the strongest military yet.
There would be no such thing as America.
We probably
That's
wouldn't have
right.
run
We
these
supersize everything here. It's America.
Supersize everything.
Supersize everything?
Yeah.
What did you think, Oliver? Do you think we would have been better off? We had the whole frontier on one side of our country where there were Indian tribes and there were the French and there were the Spanish coming up. I mean, it would have been safer.
If we hadn't Britain, then we probably wouldn't have won World War II.
That's a really good point. That's a very good historical point. And this is an important thing to remember. Sometimes a lot of people will make a safe decision and give up their freedom in order to have some safety or security that you think that you might not otherwise have. But when you embrace the risk and when you embrace responsibility for yourself and your future, it turns out in the end to be a whole lot better.
That's why US is better than Britain, because they'll have a better military.
Better know it. Robert?
I never
The whole debate embodies the tension between these two traditions. There's one where it says prudence dictates that tradition is long established. So you got a traditionalist position that you don't alter, long established traditions. On the other hand, if it's not working, you got to change it, you got to fix it. So you got this traditionalist and you got a more liberal in the older classical sense at war with each other.
That's true. Sometimes it's easier to just keep doing what you've always been doing because you know how to do it, and you don't have to learn anything new. We had a system of government coming from England that was just sort of put on the colonies. It was there. It had been, working that way for several hundred years. So what's the point of changing? But no.
Class is over.
No, class isn't quite over yet. We've got a little ways to go. But not too much longer. Not too much longer. I know you guys are looking outside, but the sun's starting to come through. But I want to ask you guys a little bit, because one of the things that we try to do in Liberty Camp here is we want to teach you a little bit about the history of where the liberty that you enjoy as citizens of the United States comes from. But just as important as the history is, how does it apply to your life today? Because I know that you'll hear a lot of people out there sometimes say, well, those are some good stories, but it really doesn't apply to the country today because those guys were 240 years ago, and things are a lot different today. But are they really different?
No.
In some ways they are.
Yeah, a little bit.
In some ways they're different, but endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, those of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Those things are eternal. I don't think those things ever change. Even though, today we have cell phones and Facebook accounts and Instagram and all that sort of stuff. Well, I meant we as the collective, as the one people. We the one people. Remember that phrase from the Declaration of Independence? One people. We as Americans. So in America, those things exist, and we do things somewhat differently. We have a lot more technology than we do today. There are a lot more people here now than there were at the time of the American Revolution. Huh?
7 billion people.
7 billion people on the planet, but there are 320 million. 307? That sounds about right. 307 million people in the United States. So we don't have a frontier anymore. That's very different.
What's a frontier?
A frontier is, well, if you look at the picture of the colonies here, this is where everybody lived, pretty much here. And over here, there really wasn't a whole lot. There were some Indian American tribes.
In Texas or anywhere there is referred to as a frontier, and the people who would go there would be called frontiersmen.
Right, that's right, frontiersmen. So if you didn't like what was going on here, you go here. And if you didn't like what was going on here, you could go here. And there wasn't anybody there. You could establish.
Maybe it's just like walking around in the woods.
But that was exactly right. That was another form of freedom. It was another form of freedom that you could go someplace. And that dynamic, which is a way things work, doesn't exist in the United States anymore. So how do you see the liberties, right to free life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness? You guys have any insights into how that affects your life today? Do you see anybody trying to take your freedoms away?
No.
No, it'd be stupid.
It would be stupid. But
Why no?
how many of you guys know what Uber is?
Google.
Who's Uber? You know what
Oh,
Uber
Uber's
is?
a call company that brings people to places.
Yeah, let Abraham tell, because he had his hand up.
It's one of the car places that brings people to places on like taxis. They don't charge by time, they charge by distance.
Yeah, they charge. It's a different way to do business to get you as a consumer from point A to point B. And the way Uber works is you get an app on your phone, and if you want a taxi, you go on your phone and say, who can pick me up at Liberty Camp and take me back to my house at 11:30. And a bunch of people will pop up and say, you can do this. I can pick you up and I'll charge you $8. And somebody else will say, I can pick you up, I'll charge you $7. And you can pick the best one. And you can review who your driver's going to be to make sure that they have a good reputation, if they have 5 stars, 4 stars, 2 stars. And it's pretty popular, it's really popular, particularly with people who are a little bit older than you are, because it's on your phone, it's really easy to do, it's easy to become an Uber driver if you want to earn some extra money. But there are people in our government today who are saying, you can't do that. They want to pass laws saying you can't be an Uber driver and you can't be an Uber customer because we have traditional taxi cab companies. And they do it a certain way, and you have to do it that way.
It's no law.
Sort of, very similar to what, the king was saying. We sell tea to you, huh?
Does that mean we get to fire the government?
That is a really great question.
Let's fire the government.
Now, sometimes you fire the government entirely, like we did in the American Revolution, but the other alternative that Jefferson gave us in the Declaration of Independence was to change it. So, for people...
Alter the government.
Or
like
alter it.
Put up a new president.
Yeah, put up a new president or elect new people to the state legislatures or to your local city councils or stuff. We'll put laws into place that will protect your freedoms as a consumer and as somebody looking for work. But, in all of these situations, you've got people who are making money from the way they used to do cabs, the traditional way where you stand on a street corner and you wave or you call them up on the phone and say, come get me, versus the new way. And the people who want to make changes to that are sort of like the colonists. They say, we got a new, better way to do this. And then you got the people who are trying to stop them are sort of like the king and Britain. So this stuff still goes on today, even with our government. Even with our good government and our good constitution, you have people that are trying to limit your freedoms in certain ways. And we have to decide as a people whether we want to let that happen. And we have to be ever vigilant. Yes, Caleb?
I was just reminded of a question I had yesterday but didn't ask. Why did they call their leader a president instead of using the word king that they were used to?
That's a very good question. And there were some people who wanted to be a king. And we were very lucky that George Washington was our leader at the time, because I want to say Alexander Hamilton may have been one person who was insisting that we have a king. Aaron Burr was another one. I don't know if you've ever heard the name Aaron Burr. He and Hamilton got into a duel. Was interested in forming a new kingdom, because that's what they do. That's how they do it. But there was a long debate over what to call the leader of the new country when we formed the Constitution. And John Adams had some, I forget what some of them were, but they were like these outlandishly formal titles. But they finally came down on president because it didn't sound royal. It sounded more sort of businesslike, and it sounded like it wasn't something that was going to last for their lifetime. Robert, did you have something to add to this?
Well, actually I was, but then his question changed mine. The common sense, Thomas Paine's common sense addresses that. They weren't just trying to get rid of that king. They're trying to get rid of the notion of kingship altogether. And he quoted a lot of verses in the Old Testament in Samuel when they said the people were crying for a king, and then it was not viewed as God's will. This is what the king is going to do for you. And there were several verses that he used, and that's in common sense. So maybe sometime in a follow-up we can address that question and go through Thomas Paine's common sense, because he addresses that. We're not only going to defy tyranny, but the tyrant itself. So it's not just these actions, but the idea that you should have a king. They weren't just defying the king; they were defying kingship itself.
Great question. Really good insight.
I just thought of something. I never connected this before, but the word president correlates with preside. So if you preside over a meeting, for instance, you're running the meeting. So the president presides over the executive branch of government, which is what we'll be talking about tomorrow, the various branches of government and what that all means, what their jobs are and so forth. So maybe they came up with that word because of presiding. I don't know. Just a guess.
So are there any other ways that you can see where the liberties are being protected, or sometimes maybe people in your own country are looking to take some of your liberties away? Remember yesterday I told you the story about the cell phone and the AT&T, American Telephone and Telegraph monopoly that they had until they broke it up. Everyone had to have the same kind of telephone, which just seems so silly today, huh?
Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, and more.
That's right. They split up AT&T in all those different countries, and they started competing with one another, and they were free to pursue different ideas. What about taxes? I mean, we saw the Boston Tea Party, we saw the Stamp Act, we saw the Intolerable Acts, and putting taxes on things. You guys are pretty young. You probably don't pay too much attention to the taxes, huh?
I do. Benny Hill Show.
I can't hear you because you got a bottle of
What's the Benny Hill Show?
What's the Benny Hill Show?
Yeah.
Oh, this is.
It's on a quiz if you want to. I'm not sure.
Oh, I just kind
of. Thought that might be fun.
Sure. Yeah, I think maybe tomorrow we'll do the quiz. Because can you put up my presentation though?
Yeah.
Again, because I got one last thing. Well, we've got about 15 minutes left. Yeah, Linda. Oh, you're just holding up the crayons. Okay. Well, any last ideas before I give you this one last little project that I hope you'll have some fun? We talked about the importance of words in the Liberty Kid video that you saw, and how important it is the exact right word. But there's also symbolism that's really important too. You have to have rallying cries. Remember Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. That was a powerful rallying cry. You have the words of Benjamin Franklin, we must all hang together or we surely hang alone. Important words in a rallying cry. But the other rallying cry, if you go to the next slide, comes from flags. And these are the symbols of the revolution. Linda, can you hand out the crayons and the paper? Thank you. And these are some of the flags. Are you guys familiar with some of these flags?
No.
That came out from the Liberty Tree, which said an appeal to heaven. The first one up in the upper left-hand corner, that's got to be familiar to you.
That's the one, the first flag.
No.
That's the first
Upper left.
flag. Oh, first flag.
Yeah, that's the first flag. That's the first
I was invented
flag of the
in
Americans. Yeah, amen.
13 stars.
Yeah, 13 stars for 13 colonies, and that would become the 13 states. And the same for the stripes.
These stars are coming.
There are 13 stripes, the red and white stripes. Who knows that other flag? You've got to see this because a lot of people still like what's called the Gadsden flag with the snake that says "Don't tread on me." People put that on the back of their trucks a lot. I see here in Vermont.
Is that South Carolina or Texas? It's one of the southern states, right?
No, "Don't tread on me" was actually the first flag of the Marines. The two kind of go together. That one with the tree there, with the Liberty Tree, an appeal to heaven. And what the Liberty Tree was, George Washington commissioned a colonial navy because the British had the most powerful navy in the world, and we had to fight them in places like Lake Champlain. So he ordered 6 cruisers to be built. And when that navy was assembled, they adopted that flag of the Liberty Tree. And manning that, because you can't just have sailors, they needed some ground troops to help the sailors when they would land to go on and fight some of the battles. They created the Marines. They were called Marines. It's not the official Marine Corps that we have today, but the Marines who fought adopted the "Don't Tread on Me" Gadsden flag. And then this one here in the bottom right-hand corner has some very strong, deep ties to us here in Vermont. And who knows where that flag comes from? Nobody knows? That's the flag of Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys. And of course, they were instrumental in taking Fort Ticonderoga. And I run an institute called the Ethan Allen Institute. So
You're the leader, right?
What's that?
You're the leader, right?
I am. I am the president of the Ethan Allen Institute, not the United States.
How long?
So I thought it would be fun. These flags are really cool. And these are rallying, and these are things you carry in the battle. "Don't Tread on Me" has those powerful symbols to it. Why is it a snake?
Yeah.
Because what happens if you step on a rattlesnake?
To die.
Yeah, it'll bite you.
If you crush its head, then it'll die.
Well, that's true. But
No, it's.
That's a love snake. You accidentally step on its head and not part of its tail.
so
How do you eat?
what the "Don't Tread on Me" was is we were telling the British, don't mess with us, or we will bite back.
Snake oil.
And those are the symbols that people found interesting. So we've got some paper, and I thought it'd be fun if you guys wanted to. Got a couple of things you could do. Is you could draw a flag. A, you could copy one of the flags that you see here. B, you could come up with your own liberty flag that would inspire you and inspire your liberty, your definition of liberty in your own minds. What'd you come up with, Caleb? Jesus died for me. That's nice. That's very inspiring. And
Very
you've
nice.
got a wooden cross on a black background. That's cool. I like that. How about you, Jonathan?
Vermont, yeah, go USA. Maple syrup.
Vermont maple syrup with the maple leaves. I like it.
That's great.
That's inspiring, because who doesn't like maple syrup? Who doesn't love Vermont? I love it.
Yeah. Hey, Vermont is a top in
Micah, what did you come up with?
The USA.
Don't come here with a volcano. Awesome.
So if you come too close, we're going to scorch you.
I like it. That's awesome.
You're going to get burned.
That captures the spirit of the volcano. What is the symbol up in the field there?
Another one.
It's a snowflake? Okay, so that's like ties us back into Vermont. So that could have been a Vermont Revolutionary battle flag.
Hey, Rob, can we put this up?
Huh?
Yeah. Don't come up.
Oh, they can if they like.
I said we have the room till tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
Well, this one's don't because this is high.
What did you come up with, Oliver? You were telling me about your symbol that you came up with. I really like this.
I use the symbol for my imaginary universe.
Nice.
And then I decided to incorporate it into a flag.
That's awesome.
Since in my imaginary universe, I don't actually have a flag yet.
So you're declaring independence from America and establishing an imaginary universe.
Nope.
Nope.
The imaginary universe came first, and I've been working on it for like 3 years.
Well, that's a great project, and now it has a flag.
You have great imagination.
So this is cool.
You never conquer the universe.
So anybody else do their own flag, or you want to share the picture? You guys, why did you guys pick you guys did the original 13 colonies flags. Why did you pick that one? Just because it's the coolest, or it was the first one, or it's because it's the one you like?
Probably.
The easiest to draw?
That Vermont wasn't even a part. Yeah, Vermont wasn't even a part.
Well, thanks, guys.
Vermont was the after
So hopefully we'll get to see you guys again tomorrow for the last day. We talked about some really big concepts, and I really appreciate you guys paying close attention. And I'm really proud of how well you listen to some really big ideas. We'll have some big ideas tomorrow too when we talk about the Constitution of the United States. We've established the principles that we're going to protect, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But it's not just enough to say those things. You actually have to put laws and structures in place to make sure that